Our speaker today, who I have the pleasure of introducing, is Professor Davor Džalto of Sankt Ignatios College and Stockholm School of Theology, who is Professor of Religion, Art, and Democracy. Davor is not only a theologian, he's also a professional artist and critic and theoretician of art. And so his own work brings together a range of fascinating topics, very important for our own age in many, many different ways. And so with that, I'll turn the floor over to you, Davor.
Thank you, Rand, for your introduction, and thank you all who expressed interest in this program, in our master's program in general, and in particular in the program in religion, politics, and democracy. And today we are going to talk more about the program. And of course, if you have any questions later on, please ask related to the issues or questions that I cover, but also those that I didn't cover and you might be interested in. So master's programs in general are supposed to provide you postgraduate, as it is sometimes called, education. So after you have already completed your primary education, which is usually nowadays called BA education, which can be 3 or 4 years of your primary studies at the university. We have generally master's programs that prepare you for either further academic work and research or academic careers or PhD research later on, or so-called professional careers that equip you with necessary skills and knowledge for some kind of work, practical work or professional careers that can enable you to directly continue with after completing the program. And of course, there are master's programs that combine both of those, and this master's program is one of them. It is supposed to give you competences and knowledge that can prepare you for professional careers, say as workers within NGOs or governmental organizations, international organizations, for religious organizations, also other types of careers as well, but also for later research or PhD studies that you can pursue after completion of this master's program. Well, all academic backgrounds and fields that deal with religious and political ideas and institutions are actually relevant for this master's program. Starting from traditional ones such as theology degrees and field of theology, also religious studies, but then also political philosophy, political science, fields such as international relations, also philosophy, sociology, especially sociology of religion. These are the core fields that are directly relevant to this master's program. Of course, you can also have formally another degree from the humanities or social sciences that won't prevent you from applying for this master's program. You can submit your application, and of course, depending on the type of your studies, how many credits went into particular subjects, we can judge from that whether you have enough competencies to join this master's program or not. But all the humanities and social sciences are in principle acceptable, especially are desirable or academic studies in the fields such as religious studies, theology, political philosophy, sociology of religion, political science, and so on, they would be more directly relevant, and they would prepare you better for this program. Program looks primarily from a broader perspective at the issue of religion, religious ideas, religious institutions, and the sphere of the political institutions and political ideas. And within that realm, more specifically, the issue of democracy and democratic processes. So what we are interested in is to unpack this both complicated history behind all of these ideas and institutions, how religious ideas and institutions have shaped some of the political ideas and institutions, including the idea of democracy, and vice versa, how political institutions and ideas and certain processes, including those processes that belong to what we call democratic procedures or democratic and pluralistic society, how they have shaped and influenced religious ideas and institutions. Our focus is on the West, broadly speaking, the Western world, and within this broad realm, we then focus more particularly on the question of Eastern Christianity or Orthodox Christianity, and how all of these ideas and mutual influences and sometimes also interferences between religious and political ideas and institutions can be seen, can be analyzed and understood in the context of Eastern Christianity or Eastern Orthodoxy. Why would this be something important? As you know, religion has been always a significant factor in shaping our societies. For certain period of time in the West, there was this paradigm that turned out to be a false one, that religion was disappearing and was becoming less and less relevant for our societies, especially for modern society. And many people looked at it as some kind of ancient reflex, something that actually does not organically belong to modern society, that would eventually disappear, leaving us with purely, let's say, secular social political realm. It turned out not to be quite simple, and eventually the whole idea turned out to be flawed on multiple levels. One of the reasons is that many of those ideas that we understand typically as modern, Western, and secular, something that we almost instinctively understand as being non-religious in themselves, actually have their roots in religious ideas and religious practices, have their roots in the ways in which many of those complex processes were unfolding in the history of the West over the past centuries and even millennia. On the other hand, even when we come to very contemporary recent times and we try to understand why there are certain processes within our societies, why there are issues with some of the democratic procedures, some of the ideas that we thought were pretty much fixed in the collective imagination of the people in the West. Why do we face these ideas? Why there are processes that we sometimes call illiberal? Why there are phenomena such as religious fundamentalism? Why do we have socioeconomic models that don't seem to work actually for the majority of the population, not only in the West, but everywhere? Actually, to understand these issues and to try to give an answer to these questions, you need to go back and unpack some of the religious ideas, both in the past, but also how those religious ideas, and even broadly speaking, ideologies, impact our contemporary societies and processes within our contemporary societies. And we want, within this program, to actually give you a possibility to look into some of these complexities and try to understand them and bring them to the present and use them in your analysis as case study of Orthodox Christianity and processes within that branch, if you will, of Christianity that we call Orthodoxy. Why Orthodoxy is relevant, and that will be my last point before asking for your questions and then maybe going into some of the practicalities of the program. Why Orthodox Christianity and thinking about Orthodoxy nowadays is important or can be important. Well, certainly for those who are interested in Orthodoxy as a tradition or history of political and religious ideas in the context of Orthodox Christianity, that there is no need to convince them why a program like this would be relevant to them. However, also those who are not particularly interested in Orthodoxy from, let me put that way, from within, from a particular theological point of view, or from the point of view of that particular denomination, why it might make sense to actually look into Orthodoxy within this broader framework, is that Orthodox Christianity is the second largest Christian denomination, if we take Christianity as a broad category, the second largest one. It is the third largest monotheistic denomination after, of course, the Roman Catholicism and Sunni Islam. Depending on how you calculate, you can also say that it is the fourth largest religious denomination after the above mentioned, and of course, Hinduism. That means in itself, it is a huge religious denomination just in terms of the number of people who belong to this religious tradition, but also in terms of how this religious belief has been traditionally distributed in various parts of the world. And many parts of the world where Orthodox Christianity is present and has been the dominant traditional faith actually are extremely relevant for some of the most important processes, social and political processes, even security issues, if you will, in contemporary world. So looking at this tradition and how various ideas evolved within this tradition and also vis-a-vis the West, and how actually many religious, political, but also economic ideas and processes evolved through this dialogue between the different branches of Christianity and also different types of political organization, different kinds of political ideas that actually can help us deal with many issues that we are facing nowadays in our societies, be those societies, Western societies, European societies, or North American societies, or Middle Eastern societies, where many of these issues related to religion and politics, and also vis-a-vis Orthodox Christianity, are extremely relevant, not to mention many parts of the African continent, and so on and so forth. One general thing about the structure of the program, because students are coming to our programs from a variety of different, both academic backgrounds, but also different parts of the world. The program is open to everybody in terms of where they are, because the program is online. And all the coursework is done online, so you don't need to be in Sweden to take this program. No matter where you are on any continent, you can, if you have access to online facilities, you can pursue this program. One, I'm highlighting that because both to tell you that you can, of course, be a student without coming physically to Sweden during the coursework, but also to say something about the structure of the program, because master's programs and academic experience as such can be very differently structured in various parts of the world. So just to kind of introduce this academic terminology that we use here in terms of semesters and when is what, I'll tell you this. So this is a 2-year master's program, and it is divided, of course, into these 2 academic years, but then each year consists of 2 semesters, and here each semester consists of 2 modules. So when you encounter the term module, because it can mean different things in English in different parts of the world, here it means simply one part of the semester. So just as each year consists of 2 semesters, fall and spring, each semester is divided into 2 modules. So in total, you have 4 modules a year. First, of course, first module is the first half of the first semester. Then the second module is the second half of the first semester. And then third and fourth module are in the second semester. And this is how all the courses are distributed. So each course actually is located within one module. So it takes 10 weeks to complete one course, if you're successful, of course. But the coursework and the final exam, they are situated within 10 weeks. That's the time that each module covers. And we start within the program with theories and methods in the study of religion, politics, and democracy. And the purpose of that course is really to make sure that we are all on the same page, as it were. Given that you can come to us from different academic backgrounds, you might not all be familiar with the methods and the kinds of approaches that we can use for the study of these particular phenomena. So this course is really there to expose you to the most important theories and methodological approaches that we can use within this particular area of study. And of course, to train you how to read academic texts, how to analyze them, and of course, how to adopt various methods and theories in your own work. So this is a very important and very foundational course that really allows you to proceed then with the rest of the courses, and of course with the rest of your assignments that include research assignments and writing different kinds of academic papers. Parallel to that course, another foundational course is Orthodox Christianity, Past and Present. And that one is also something that is there to make sure that even if you come to us from a background where you weren't exposed to a certain extent to the Orthodox Christian tradition and teachings there and its history, that actually you can get enough knowledge that would enable you to cope with the rest of the courses that are there in the program over the later modules and semesters. In the second module, first semester, you will have political theologies in Orthodox Christianity and religion and politics from Pax Romana to Pax Christiana. In the first course, political theologies in Orthodox Christianity, you will basically be looking into how various political ideas were developed within the Orthodox Christian tradition, and what are the most prominent contemporary approaches within Orthodox Christianity to the sphere of the social and the political. So it is really about how theologies cope with religious and political processes and religious and political ideas. That course you will take in the second module, parallel to religion and politics, from Pax Romana to Pax Christiana, which really is a course that covers a long history of religious and political ideas, how they evolved and how they influenced one another from the ancient Roman times up until the Renaissance. So the purpose of that course is really to give you a very in-depth insight into how things like Western imperial ideas, the concept of the republic, the concept of the political as opposed to or together with religious, how that evolved in the context of the West. That's why, of course, we begin with ancient Rome as also the context in which Christianity appeared. And we then proceed to see how many of those ancient Roman institutions and ideas penetrated into Christianity and Christian way of thinking about a socio-political sphere. And of course, how Christianity then shaped those societies where it established itself as the dominant religion. That is the one course, of course, in itself, but it is also first half, if you want to look at it from that perspective, of a larger course. And that course continues into the second semester with religion and politics from Pax Christiana to Pax Americana, which really is about, conceptually speaking, the same, just taking this story from the Renaissance up until contemporary times. Within this second part of the course, we talk about how political religious ideas and institutions influenced one another from the Protestant Reformation up until present day. And of course, within that framework, we are going to talk about more particular phenomena such as modern Western imperialisms, the role of religious ideas, or specifically Christian ideas or various types of Christian ideas, how secularization and secular processes influenced some of those religious narratives, and of course, what is the relationship between these within our contemporary globalized society. Other courses within the second semester of the first year are post-secularization in modern political philosophy, and that's the course in which you explore much more in-depth the issue of secularization. What does it mean? What are the most important theoreticians? How this issue of secularization and then post-secularization and also re-secularization are analyzed in the history of political philosophy. And that course directly links with the course Democracy and Liberalism, Contemporary Challenges. The course directly speaks to the manifold issues that we are facing nowadays. Questions such as, is democracy in a crisis? What happens or what is happening with liberalism? Why do we have something that very often is labeled as illiberal democracies? Is liberalism and democracy something compatible at all? Why do we think, or we at least thought for a very long time that these two went hand in hand. So these are really issues that will give you a chance to think about these questions much more profoundly than that's usually the case, especially in the public sphere. This course also speaks then directly to those of you and your projects who would be interested in addressing some of the contemporary contemporary issues related to both religion and socio-political sphere. So this in particular might be very relevant, especially if you are more interested in the socio-political dimension of many of those religious manifestations than religious or theological questions per se. And the first year also ends with one elective course. You can choose that course from any of the courses that are offered at Stockholm School of Theology. It is always advisable to talk to your professors or future thesis advisors, or to me as program director, which one to choose if you're not sure. Those elective courses are really there to help you individually structure your own particular profile, if you will. So to direct you toward your master's thesis, so that you can really focus on something that you're interested in and that's directly relevant to you. And the second year has basically two standard traditional courses in the first module, and that's Global Orthodoxy after 1989, which looks into the changing landscape of both global society, but focused then specifically on Orthodox Christianity and the Orthodox world after 1989. So how things changed after the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the subsequent collapse of the Soviet Union, and what is the situation in which Orthodoxy finds itself nowadays. With its stronger presence in the West, with its well-established institutions, both inside and outside traditional Orthodox countries, and so on and so forth. And the second one is religion, art, and propaganda. That one looks into how ideology basically works, and how religious narratives and also visual media, primarily visual media, can be used within religious traditions and also outside of them for propaganda and ideological purposes. So this is really a way to put into practice this critical thinking skills, and those skills that help you deconstruct various ideological narratives, but through the prism of visual culture and propaganda, and how visual media are used for propaganda purposes. In the second year, first semester, you'll also have another elective course, which you choose to best fit your own profile, and also a course dedicated to thesis preparation. So the course prepares you for the thesis, which comes in the second semester of the second year. And that is also something very individual, in the sense that the course is there to help you develop your particular thesis, so that you can use that time to develop your research plan, the structure of your thesis, and of course do preliminary research through the relevant literature, so that you can much more efficiently and much more successfully write your thesis, hopefully during the second semester of the second year. So hopefully you would be able to complete it during that time. And if you pay a close attention and you do everything on time and as instructed by your supervisors and your teachers, that should not be a problem. So this is, in very brief lines, the structure of the program and the courses, mandatory courses, and I mentioned a couple of elective courses that you will have a chance to choose.
Thank you very much, Davor. Are there any questions that anyone would like to raise right now? Well, I have a couple if there aren't any immediately. First, is the Toefl required for application?
Yes. So a short answer to that would be that those students who who haven't completed their secondary studies in English, and students outside of Sweden, they are supposed to provide tests showing that they have proficiency in English. So it can be Toefl or it can be a different test. There are various tests, but in any case, there should be a proof that you can attend these courses and the program as such in English at a sufficient level.
Thank you. And just a nuts and bolts issue as well, as far as fees for the course, does that vary by country of residence or?
Yes, that's another important question. So the good news here is that all of those who are citizens of any of the EU countries, they do not need to pay tuition. So both citizens of the EU, any EU country, and also residents of Sweden, if you are not a citizen of an EU country, but you have your resident in Sweden, you also do not need to pay tuition. So those who are not residents of Sweden and who are not citizens of either Sweden or another EU country, they need to pay tuition fees, and there is online and also in those brochures that we distribute, and you can also find them on our website. There are more particular information and exact amounts, how much you're supposed to pay. Since I do not deal with that, I would not like to provide any false information. So it's better if you just check that directly or get in touch with competent people from the administration who will be able to help with that.
Thank you for that information. In terms of any other academic preparation, such as a graduate exam like the GRE or anything equivalent, is that required for application?
Required is that there is like the standard would be to have completed BA degree or equivalent, and what we outlined also in those materials is that it should be, ideally speaking, a bachelor's degree comprising of 180 ECTS credits, and students in Europe are familiar with what that means. And it should be at least 60 credits in the subjects of religious studies or theological courses. But that is not an absolute prerequisite, because we understand that students coming from different countries and different parts of the world do have different systems, and they cannot necessarily directly translate into kind of European or most European systems, and especially those ECTC credits that we use here, we operate with. Degree, some completed primary studies that in most countries nowadays, at least in the West, are called BA degrees. That is what we ask for, but we are also in those subject areas that I talked about earlier. But if you are interested in the program and you think you are equipped enough because of all the academic work you have done before, but you are not sure that it directly translates into those degrees and credits as they are described, you can also get in touch with our administration and academic dean and director of studies, who will help verify if the academic qualifications are sufficient, and even if they are somehow do not follow the pattern that most of the students probably would follow when they apply, that does not mean that you cannot study. It needs to be verified basically on individual cases.
Very good. Thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to add, Davor, before we wrap it up?
I would like to thank all of those who joined us online, and to thank you for your time and your moderation of today's presentation and discussions. And just again to repeat that if there are any other questions, or anybody who will later on be watching this video on YouTube, if they have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me.
Very good. Thank you again, Professor Davor Džalto, for the information and your time. And thank you all who are listening today and who have attended. And we welcome your questions and interest in the program. Thank you again, and have a good day.
Bye-bye.